So India is witnessing very important events in the field of sports. We have seen recently Women Premier League. We have seen how the IPL have grown past many years. And this event, which are taking place in Indian sports ecosystem, have created so much space for many professionals. And when we talk about professionals, these professionals come with the expertise from backgrounds like journalism. If we talk about broadcast and event management, we talk about management and leadership itself, and so do the sports scientists. And when we talk about sports sciences, we sports psychology is a part of sports science. So there is a lot of space and scope for budding sports psychologist. And we welcome you to our fourth episode of Sports Psych Talk, India ka apna sports talk show. So today we have very distinguished guest with us, Dr. Soni John. Dr. Soni John is an associate professor and head of the Department of Bachelor of Physical Education at Christ College in Kerala. Dr. Soni is a registered and established sports psychology practitioner with the International Society of Sports Psychology. He is the one of the only, I think, psychologist in India who have got this registration with the International Society of Sports Psychology. Dr. Soni got his PhD in psychology and motor learning from Victoria University Melbourne, Australia. So, Dr. Soni, we welcome you to our podcast. And before we get into we try to delve into the main topic of today's. First of all, just give an overview to our audience about the International Society of Sports Psychology, and also tell the importance of the ISSPR registry of International Society of Sports Psychology for the practitioners.
Okay, as you know, International Society of Sports Psychology is the international organization that deals with affairs relating to psychology involved in sport. Not only in sport, exercise, and allied subject areas like motor learning, sports cognitive neuroscience, etc. And it is an organization that has been functional for the last more than 50 years. It's close to 60 years now. It was started in 1965, and periodically they organize ISSP conference, and it has been going around at different places for the last 59 years. Apart from that, the importance of ISSP is that it unifies different groups that involved in sports psychology, and it also works as an organization that coordinates with different national organizations involved in sports psychology. One of the most important functions of ISSP is providing a platform for deliberations related to psychology involved in sport. And recently, ISSP started to register sports psychologists all over the world. So by registering, ISSP is doing a kind of a process whereby they unify different registration processes that are available around the world now. They also provide a platform for those countries where there is no registration process, and the psychologists from those countries to register internationally and get recognized internationally as sports psychology practitioners. That is the importance of ISSP's registration process. As you know, it's a long process. There are two streams, like one is established practitioner. I am one of the established practitioners of ISSP, and the other one is emerging practitioner. In any case, it's a big opportunity for sports psychologists all around the world to register under ISSP, because ISSP registration ensures that there is a quality control among the sports psychology practitioners. They have stiff criteria with regard to the ethics involved in practicing sports psychology. They have a stringent measure to look at the educational qualification and then supervision. That includes internship as well, where you get trained under an established or a senior sports psychologist. So that makes things really pretty standardized in sports psychology. That is one of the reasons I thought I would get registered myself. I, along with Jolly Roy, were the first two sports psychologists in India to get registered with ISSPR as established sports psychologists. I hope that most sports psychologists from India will take it as an opportunity to get registered with ISSP so that they can bring in a kind of approval, international approval for their practicing, career. Thank you.
Yes, this is what our efforts are about today. That the many budding sports psychologists and even the practitioners are there in India. Those who may look forward to take this registration with the ISSP. So my next question is like I just want to understand, and for our audience also, if you can please explain how to navigate through this process. If you can tell our audience step by step what they have to do in order to get that registration, and if you can also highlight the type of registrations are available. As you just said that there are two type of registration. One is for the emerging practitioner, another is for the established practitioner. Can you please explain or tell how to obtain this registration step by step?
Sure. I would first focus on the emerging sports psychologist registration process. It involves 4 steps. First of all, before going into those steps, you should know that you should get a membership with ISSP, which is mandatory to be a registered sports psychologist. Once you are a member, you get access to the ISSP's website, which provides all the information. And there is a provision in the website where you will have to, where you can actually go to the ISSPR and see what are the steps involved. But for the convenience, I shall explain them one by one now. If you are if you're somebody who is just getting into the practicing space of sports psychology, it is good that you apply for an emerging psychologist registration. And the first step involves the inspection of the educational qualifications. So you should have a qualification, a substantial knowledge base, including academic knowledge of sports psychology, a bachelor's degree in sports science. It could be, sports psychology or psychology, or in sports science or a related area, which is essential for you to get registered as a practitioner. And you need to have a decent syllabus that covers psychology in that, actually. That is pretty important. So a Master of Science, even if, a bachelor's degree, and the most desirable would be a master's one. A Master of Science or Arts in an area directly related to psychology or sports science would be the basic qualification for this. So a bachelor's in psychology or sports science, then a master's would be the preferred educational qualification for being an emerging sports psychologist.
Soni, I just sorry to cut you here. Qualification is pretty important. It is the first step. If before you apply, you should have a proper qualification, relevant qualification. In fact, I just want to know, what about the medical sciences? Somebody who have a vast background of medical sciences, are they eligible for this registration?
If they have some background in sports psychology, psychology or sports science, they can, which is mandatory. Even if you're a doctor, if you do not have a background in psychology or sports science, it's difficult.
Let's talk about the MBBS. Somebody who done MBBS and done late after MBBS done masters in sports psychology, would they be eligible?
Yeah, because he got a master's in sports psychology and will be naturally eligible, no doubt about it. But you should have you should have a master's. If you have a UG program in psychology, that's well and good. Even if you do not have a bachelor's, but you have a master's after MBBS or something of that sort, that's good enough. That's good enough.
I just want to add a little bit, one more, want to ask you a point about. There are some students who have, they do not have a background in sports sciences. They do not have
Yeah.
a proper degree in psychology, but they have studied one subject as a psychology during their
No.
graduation. So and further after their graduation, so there was this one subject they studied, which was psychology and sociology, and after that they go apply for masters in sports psychology. Even from abroad also, I think UK, there are a couple of universities, those who are now accepting the application from Indian students who done some odd courses, but they had read one subject as psychology. So what about
Yeah.
them? Is it possible? Is it possible for them to apply for this registration process?
Yeah, ISSP is not clear about it. They always talk about, master of science or arts in an area directly related to psychology or sports science. Okay, it is expected that at least 1/3 of graduate taught module credit scores should pertain directly to sports and exercise psychology. That is the criteria that they have put forward. 1/3 of postgraduate taught module credit scores should pertain directly to sport and exercise psychology. So, in my case, I should explain that I have a graduation in physical education. I had one paper there. Then I had my master's. I had another paper in psychology, sports psychology there. Then for my MPhil, I had two papers in sports psychology. So with MPhil, I had 4 papers. I completed 4 papers in sports psychology. Then along with that, I did my PhD in psychology of sport and motor learning. That makes me qualified for the registration. So it is pretty clear. If you go to the ISSP website, you'll get that information. It is expected that at least 1/3 of postgraduate taught module credit scores, credit/courses should pertain directly to sport and exercise psychology. That's what it says.
Sony, this is really interesting because there are a lot of sometimes misinformation out there, and the budding student and practitioners also, they unable to navigate through this process. They just think, okay, it is available, and they apply, and they do not get the kind of response they looking for from such organizations. My question is, just somebody who's doing a PhD in sports sciences. So sports sciences is obviously the umbrella term, which what I feel here. So somebody who's doing PhD in sports sciences, but he's his topic is very closely related to psychology. Would they be eligible?
That depends, because the university usually, if you ask, the main subject of your course, your PhD thesis, if the university thinks and they provide a certificate like that your subject area is psychology, then there is a possibility, because the universities always look for the basic qualification. They do not give you entry for PhD, like that. They will be analyzing your UG and PG and see how many credits that you have in psychology before you join for a psychology PhD. So universities always provide a certificate. If you ask for a certificate, they provide a certificate showing the main areas of your PhD, main subject area of your PhD. In my case, it is psychology of motor learning and sports. So it is not that you get admission for a psychology PhD or sports psychology PhD like that. If you go to a good university, naturally they look at the basic qualification, whether you are eligible to do a PhD in psychology or sport or motor learning or a related area. So we know that there are problems with this. We know that there are problems with that. There are people all around you doing PhD in sports psychology, having no basic, they do, some of them do PhD in physical education or sports science. Then their area of choice is psychology or sport.
Yes.
But their PhD is in physical education, either in physical education or in sports science. You cannot say that it is in sports psychology unless the university clearly states that, looking at the work that one does. Okay, so that is a bit tricky, actually. That is a bit tricky, as you know. So we have a lot of people around us claiming that they have done their PhD in sports psychology. It's a fact. But then, they might not get very well registered with ISSP with that. They need to show, apart from the educational qualifications, they need to show many other things to get registration with ISSP. Education qualification is only one step. That is the first step. There are 3 other things that you need to go through before you being considered for the registration.
What are those 2 remaining 2 are?
I'll come to that. Once you complete your educational thing, then the second stage is applied experience. What is your applied experience? Have you worked with athletes? How long have you been working with athletes? What are your involvement and your contribution? Have you been working under someone? That is the next one, supervision. But applied experience is the other qualification that ISSP registry looks at. A minimum of 250 hours of independent practice is required, actually. No. So that means it's a lot of experience that you require, actually, to be an emerging sports psychologist. Direct service delivery to athletes, clients, while under the guidelines of supervisor, mentor, and after the completion of master's degree, you have to work 250 hours, right? And if you want to apply for established sports psychologist, you have to work for 8 years before applying.
Soni, this is very interesting, actually, in terms of work experience. I just want you to clarify. Do they accept the experience letters? Like, there are organizations which they give experience letter to their employees. So do they do? Okay. So I thought they have a different format. I have seen their application form though. Or is there any specific format they ask? Okay, you fill this format. Ask your previous employer to fill this format, then sign and give it to you, or simply they will accept the acknowledgement letters, especially the experience letter, which are most important.
Yeah, what I used was I used my experience letters from different sporting organizations and government, and I also was having a center for sports psychology in my college, where I used to deal with a lot of athletes. Our college is one of the best in sports in terms of performance sports in Kerala. We have been champions, consecutively overall champions in Calicut University for the last 5 years, and Calicut University is one of the best in India, as you know. So I've been dealing with athletes. I have a center for sports psychology. I've been dealing with them. So I had all those records of dealing with the athletes. I kept the records of the diagnosis and the treatment part, and the therapies that I used, and the meeting schedule, everything, every kind of record I maintained, actually. And I used all those records. Of course, when you have to keep the confidentiality, you have to be confidential. You don't have to show the names of the people that you deal with, but the way that the kind of diagnosis that you made, the kind of training that you provided, the kind of therapies that you provided, and it's how you schedule them, and the meeting schedules, everything that I maintained. And you have to support this with the certification from the head of the institution, actually, because I have been based in an institution, so I have to get it certified from my institution head, actually, and then send it to the ISSP with the registration application. And also, I used certificates from sports organizations. I was with Kerala State Volleyball teams. I was with Kerala Cricket Association. I've been working with State Bank of India, the S1 State Bank of India football team. I was working with several other teams, and I had all those documents with me, which is essential actually when you go for registration. You have to submit all those documents. So you have to get the experience certificates from the. I was also for 1 year. I was working with a professional volleyball team way back in 2003-4. So all those documents I submitted when they invited the registration application way back in, I think it was in 2021, right? So that all counted. But over the years, I understand that over the years, the process has undergone certain changes. So I'm not pretty sure whether they are accepting those documents these days, whether they have any kind of template, specific template in relation to this. The applicants will have to look specifically into it. They have templates for many other things. They have templates for your CV. They have templates for your ethical statement. You got to provide a statement of your philosophy, working philosophy, consulting philosophy, which should be close to 500 to 700 words, actually.
So they do have all these. So they do have all these documents on their website, and anybody can go and download those documents as template and study, and then later can produce a similar kind of document for themselves to apply for this registration. Dr. Soni, I just want you to, after this experience and whatever appraisals somebody have got during their practice. After that, what is the third step? If you can shed some light on the third step for this registration process.
Third step is supervision, actually. Supervision is an important aspect of professional development. The ISSP states that correctly, and you need to give evidence of supervised practice, actually. So they look at somebody's senior sports psychologist to supervise you a minimum of 40 hours. That is the requirement for emerging practitioner registration.
But supervision simply means, do you think supervision means internship here? That somebody should have done some internship program under, in an organization under some sports psychologist?
Yeah, that is the way to go about, actually. They state that it has to be an ISSP approved supervisor, and as you know, there are not many ISSP approved supervisor. So if there is someone who is very senior, probably a senior established practitioner, I think ISSP will accept that. Because in a country like India, I don't think that there is any ISSP registered supervisor available now. So naturally,
you are the one.
I haven't registered for that. I'll try to register for a supervisory practice. I haven't done that. Yeah, okay, is later, no doubt. Yeah.
Dr. Soni, I think in that supervision is really, really very important. Even I also get these calls from budding aspiring sports psychologists, those who are looking either to take up master sports psychology as their a master's program, or those who have done master's program, they look forward to do some supervised training. But as you have just rightly said, and if somebody comes and train under me also, or in under any other sports psychologist, that does not make any sense. Maybe if somebody looking for ISSPR kind of registration, because for that some supervisor need to be himself first of all. That registration is important for a supervisor, but there is a specific kind of registration which basically make you eligible to provide supervision to the students. So you have rightly said. Dr. Soni, as we are moving forward, I just want you to add, share some, information on the benefits of this registration. If somebody apply for this registration, or student or practitioner, what are the benefits?
Yeah, the first benefit is that when you register, it's a kind of a license to practice sports psychology anywhere in the world, actually. There may be some kind of restrictions in some countries, possibly because they have a different kind of a registration. So they might not agree um, directly to accept you. They might ask you to register there first before start practicing. That is possible. But otherwise, if you look at generally, it is a kind of a license actually to practice sports psychology anywhere. And that is a stamp of quality actually. That registration is a stamp of quality that you are qualified enough to practice sports psychology, and that too given by the World Organization. That is the obvious advantage of it. That is the obvious advantage of it. And by the time you register, you'll be going through a lot of process, and you'll know the ethical aspects involved in sports, which is very essential actually. Sometimes what happens when you work with the teams, you are under pressure. You have pressure from your probably the manager who asks you to do certain things, who wants to force a performance, but the ethics clearly say that, work ethics clearly, for me at least, I always believe in, believe athlete as a human being as well. So I always try to provide them space for personal development. Actually, I don't have the habit of forcing them all the time for performance. I follow a schedule because of that. That is my work philosophy. I always follow a schedule and provide training on a day-to-day basis. And I also intervene only when it is required. I do not intervene when it is not required. Even if somebody forces me to intervene, I will not do that, because my philosophy is strongly based on the understanding that every athlete is also a human being. So I help them to develop as a sound individual. I help them to develop or help them to evolve into a very good individual who will sustain his or her performance in the toughest situations. So that is something really good. So when you go through the process of ISSP registration, you go through a stringent process of understanding those professional ethics, which is very important. So it is a stamp of authority, as I said, a stamp of quality, a stamp of approval, which is very, very important, because especially in India, we know that there is no registration process currently in sports psychology, which is a drawback. We have many practitioners in India. Some of them are trained overseas in some of the best universities, no doubt about it. They are qualified to be registered practitioners, but there is no registration process in India. So the best thing for the psychologist, emerging as well as senior psychologists, to get the ISSP registration as a node of recognition to work, to practice sports psychology. And there is no doubt that ISSP registration is an advantageous one. It gives an edge to you as a practitioner.
Soni, I think this is really, really interesting what you just said, actually, for our audience, that it makes it actually, really important for any practitioner to have, being recognized, because as you said, there is no registration process. I just want you to ask, we have this 30 plus year old association. You also been a part of that. Even they have recently held in, I think, if I'm not wrong, Coimbatore. The Sports Psychology Association of India. So, do you think that they should take the lead and they should start registering with the registration process basically for budding sports psychologists? And I think they can. They already have the membership that does provide some benefit. Those who are the member of the Sports Psychology Association of India. Do you think they should start registration within the country, and or they should also do these frequent events in collaboration with the International Society of Sports Psychology, so that we get more and more. And if you can please answer this briefly, because we are just heading toward the end of this show.
Sure. I was in Coimbatore recently, as you said. SPY had its recent conference at Karanbir College in Coimbatore, and it was a very good occasion for the deliberations on topics related to psychology of sports. We had senior people like Tamal Kamlesh, Jolly Roy, and Secretary Anil Ramachandran, and people like that. And I'm not a member in the executive body of the SPY, but I understand that they had a long discussion about registration process. I'm not sure whether they are going to collaborate with ISSP on that, because ISSP hasn't started that. ISSP hasn't started allowing national bodies, to initiate the registration process. But as an independent body, SPY can.
But they have the accreditation. They have the accreditation with the ISSP.
They have the accreditation.
I think the only body, governing body in India at the moment, I'll say only association in India of sports psychology, which do have some valid accreditation, with any international body. And ISSP stands out because they have the history, basically, big history, behind them, starting in 1965. Since then, they have, covered many, big events. They have organized many big events of sports psychology. The World Congress itself speaks a lot.
Yeah, that's right. So SPY is thinking in the same lines. Actually, they are. That's what Dr. Ramachandran told me after towards the end of the conference, after the executive committee meeting, that they are planning. They are thinking in terms of starting a registration process, which will be huge for sports psychology in India. There is absolutely no doubt about it. So I'm also looking forward to it, to be part of, in some or the other way, helping them to run the registration process. So that'll be really good. Till then, what I would suggest the young practitioners to do is do internship under senior sports psychologists, work with teams, and try to as you sharpen your applied skills in sports psychology, you should also sharpen your mind in terms of professional ethics, which is very, very important, because you may be very good in application, in applying your psychology skills and applying your knowledge, everything. But if you are not really strong in terms of professional ethics, there could be problems. That's what I realized. So that is my advice to the youngsters, upcoming sports psychologists, to do internship under established senior sports psychologists, then get stronger in terms of professional knowledge and practice, then be independent and work. Surely we need more sports psychologists in India. That's what I realized, because I've been with the archery team, and I know that our archers have been benefited in many ways, and they provided one of the most sustainable performances recently in Indian sports. So what I would suggest is that the youngsters should go for internship after the masters, then along with the knowledge that they gain through the formal education, gain applied knowledge, working along with established sports psychologists, and sharpen their skills and ethical aspects to work for the athletes.
Rightly said, Dr. Soni. It's been a great talking to you, great discussion. There are many things still I think we, could have touched upon, but we are running short of time at the moment. Definitely, we will continue our discussion of this podcast. And rightly said, great message to our budding aspiring sports psychologists and budding sports psychologists. Tap their fingers, soon they will see some things taking place. Thank you so much once again, Dr. Soni, and I thank my audience. I also request our audience, all those sports psychologists who are following us, kindly subscribe our channel on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, show some support us on LinkedIn as well, share our this information, this podcast information around. We'll bring more interesting such topic in next episode. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Soni.